September 25th, 2007, Microsoft launched Halo 3 on the Xbox 360. It was a worldwide phenomenon and would become one of the biggest games in history. However, months prior to Halo 3's release, Bungie, the first-party studio responsible for developing the Halo games, had negotiated a deal. Bungie would develop 2 additional Halo games in exchange for the company's independence, which begged the question, what would Microsoft do with Halo? Back in 2003, Halo CE had gained immense popularity and Bungie were hard at work on Halo 2, but in the meantime, Microsoft wanted a PC release for Halo and needed a developer fast. Due to their work porting Half-Life over to consoles at that time, Microsoft reached out to Gearbox Software who would port Combat Evolved to the PC. Due to this relationship, when the moment came to find a replacement for Bungie, Gearbox Software was the obvious choice. However, an employee at Microsoft had other plans. Bonnie Ross, an executive producer at Microsoft Game Studios, had been working up the corporate ladder through her work on games such as Fusion Frenzy, Zoo Tycoon, and Gears of War to name a few. Ross was a fan of Halo, but more specifically its potential. Months prior to the release of Halo Combat Evolved, Microsoft employees were given an early sneak peek to Eric Nyland's Halo: The Fall of Reach. Ross read the book and was immediately captivated by the Halo world. To her, Halo wasn't just a game, it was a universe. However, according to Ross, after Halo 3, the word inside Microsoft was, people felt like, let's get another Halo or two out, and it's the end of the franchise. But she felt differently. She would make a pitch to Microsoft Game Studios general manager Shane Kim to take over Halo with one requirement. If I take it over, I want to be George Lucas. I want to own everything, and I want to do things differently. Ross would have her wish granted. Kim greenlit the idea to create an internal first-party studio. Named after Halo's own 343 Guilty Spark character, 343 Industries was created as a dedicated Halo studio headed by Ross. The company would manage all merchandise, media, and, of course, all Halo games. Now it was time to assemble the team. First up was Bungie's content manager Frank O'Connor, better known as Frankie, who had transitioned to franchise director. Next was Kiki Wolfkill, another Microsoft Game Studio alum who previously worked as an art director on games such as Project Gotham Racing, Midtown Madness, and Fable. Impressed by Ross's vision, Wolfkill joins as an executive producer. The team would grow to roughly 20 people and would start by aiding Bungie on Halo 3 ODST. However, with Bungie leaving Halo behind, it meant Bungie.net and its player statistics would need to be transferred over. This led to one of 343's first projects, Halo Waypoint. It would attempt to mimic Bungie.net, but 343 believed a more console-friendly approach could be developed. 343 partnered with Certain Affinity, led by Halo 2 and 3's multiplayer lead Max Hoberman, to build the Waypoint website. In the meantime, taking over Halo had its challenges. Namely, the universe needed to be kept up to date. To solve this problem, Bonnie Ross hired a media company by the name of Starlight Runner, who specialized in aggregating a universe's data into a cohesive encyclopedia. Using Starlight, Ross would interview Bungie staff to create the very first version of the Halo Bible, a document where all lore and story beats would be synced. 2 years later, Bungie had completed half of its end of the bargain by officially releasing Halo 3 ODST in September of 2009. Development had begun on what would become Halo Reach, with the aid of 343 and Certain Affinity in developing the Defiant and Anniversary map packs. But gaming was just a piece of what 343 had planned. As the franchise owner to Halo, 343 began branching out. It started assembling talent to create Halo Legends, a collection of short animated films to be released in 2010. Next, the 10-year anniversary for Combat Evolved was nearing, so 343 collaborated with Saber Interactive to create a remake of the original game. However, behind the scenes, 343 would start working on building something bigger. 343 needed more talent, although it became abundantly clear that keeping the sequel to Halo 3 a secret would be more challenging than originally expected. In doing so, applicants had a wide range of gaming preferences, some even hating Halo, which 343 took as an opportunity to improve on Halo's formula. The title of creative director would be given to Ryan Payton, an assistant producer from Kojima Productions. However, Halo 4 wouldn't be so easy to develop. The game's direction changed, and with it, Payton would step down to form his own company. Replacing Payton as Halo 4's creative director would be Josh Holmes, most known for his work as the lead designer on EA's Def Jam series. Internally, Ross pushed to have Halo 4 debut as a console launch title for the next Xbox, instead of being limited to the Xbox 360.
The decision was made to ship Halo 4 at the end of 360. Originally, I pitched it as a launch title for Xbox One.
Microsoft rejected the idea. In September of 2010, Bungie would fulfill its agreement by releasing Halo Reach to critical acclaim, which meant the time had come to say goodbye. Bungie would support the game and help transition the Bungie.net Halo data over to 343. Now is 343's chance to show the world what it could do with Halo. At E3 2011, 343 would showcase Saber Interactive's remake of Halo CE, dubbed Halo CE Anniversary. It sported a unique asset toggle that players could flip at any point to play the game in its original state or in a remade state with a new art style. It launched later that year to above average reviews from critics. However, 343 had one more trick up their sleeve. Halo 4's release date was set for holiday 2012, but 343 started branching out, partnering with Vanguard Games for a Windows 8 and Windows 8 mobile game, and announcing a TV series named Halo Forward Unto Dawn. The series would be a tie-in for Halo 4 featuring Thomas Lasky, a new character featured heavily in the game, and would release a few weeks before Halo 4's launch. However, fans were getting worried. The game was less than a year away with no gameplay shown. Finally, after years of work, 343 would reveal Halo 4 gameplay at the E3 2012 Microsoft press conference. Halo 4 showed armor abilities, new enemy types known as the Prometheans, and an all-around more rugged military interpretation of Halo. With 1 month left until the game was released, Halo Forward Unto Dawn would air on October 5th, with many liking the more personal approach to the series. Following the show, Halo 4 launched November 6, 2012 with an above-average critical reception, albeit lower than Halo traditionally would receive. The single player would be applauded for its humanization of the Master Chief, but it lacked a lot of context. A lot of the characters were established outside the games via the Halo books, which confused fans only interested in the games. Moreover, Halo 4's multiplayer would stray from the arena-based formula and copy Call of Duty's approach with sprint, loadouts, perks, and killstreak rewards. Following the launch of Halo 4, Josh Holmes would offer his notes to the studio on the direction for Halo 5 before taking a small break and transitioning to a producer role. Replacing Holmes as creative director would be Tim Longo, who worked on the cult classic Star Wars Republic Commando and 2013's Tomb Raider reboot. This time, 343 wanted to go bigger. They wanted mainstream appeal. As such, they announced a partnership with Showtime in creating an official Halo TV show with the intention of releasing it alongside Halo 5. However, due to complications, the Halo TV show wouldn't actually get an official trailer until January of 2022. By this time, work on Halo 5 was underway. So in E3 of 2013, Microsoft would surprise fans with an official announcement to the game hinting at what was to come. But Microsoft had a problem. 2014 was an important year for Halo 2, and they had nothing to show. So a year later at E3 of 2014, fans would be surprised at the Xbox One's first Halo title. Halo 2 Anniversary was announced, including a remade campaign, CGI cutscenes by Blur Studios, and a remade multiplayer.
Exactly as it shipped 10 years ago.
343 wouldn't stop there. Instead, they would bundle all of the Master Chief's Halo games together into Halo: The Master Chief Collection. November 11th, 2014 marks a special day for 343. They would release Halo Nightfall, a TV series following a new protagonist, Agent Locke, developed by Ridley Scott's production studio. They would release Halo: The Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One, and they would realize it didn't work. 343 would work on fixing bugs for a year before ultimately pulling resources to work on Halo 5. By the end of 2014, 343 would announce a Halo 5 beta where fans would learn more changes. Similar to Halo 4, Sprint would be included by default, but they would also add ADS and replace armor abilities by Spartan abilities. Fans had relayed the message clearly to 343. Halo was an arena shooter, so Halo 5 had fast gameplay and started everyone evenly with predetermined weapons on the map. By March of 2014, 343 and Microsoft had published a podcast series titled Hunt the Truth as a viral marketing campaign. Halo 5's marketing would depict Master Chief on the run and being hunted by Spartan Locke, who we last saw in the Halo Nightfall series. However, prior to Halo 5's release, something special would happen, something new for 343. In April of 2015, 343 would release a new free-to-play Halo experience on the PC dubbed Halo Online. It launched in alpha and was only available to Russian audiences as a testing bed to what Halo Halo would become. In that same month, Halo Spartan Strike would be released on Windows 8 and iOS, but 343 planned to finish 2015 with a bang. Halo 5 Guardians released October 27th, 2015. Unlike Master Chief Collection, it was playable, but fans and critics were quick to notice the viral marketing campaign did not represent the single player, and more controversially, Master Chief was no longer the protagonist. Taking his place was Spartan Locke. From the audience's perspective, it seemed like 343 planned to replace Master Chief entirely if the audiences grew to like Locke. They did not. Planning for Halo Infinite would officially begin in 2015, but following the reception of Halo 5's campaign, Halo Infinite's approach would have to be rethought. The following year, Josh Holmes would announce his departure from 343 to pursue indie development. Holmes would be replaced by 343's Chris Lee, a name we would come to learn more soon enough. In the meantime, Halo Online was gaining traction, but ultimately ended up being cancelled by Microsoft. According to a developer at Saber Interactive, Microsoft failed to make decisions on the future of the project, so the plug was pulled. Or was it? A group of modders impressed by Halo Online would unofficially resurrect the title by creating their own version of the game to the public named El Dorito, an initiative that would prove to be incredibly important to Halo's future. Back at 343, Halo Wars 2 was announced as an Xbox One and PC title at E3 2016, being developed by third-party studio Creative Assembly. The studio was known for their work on Alien Isolation, but more importantly, their work on the Total War RTS series. The sequel to 2009's Halo Wars was a great surprise, but the new enemy faction would steal the show. The Covenant were out, and replacing them would be the Banished, led by Brute leader Atriox, a decision that would not be by accident. On February 21st, 2017, Halo Wars 2 was released simultaneously to Xbox and PC with generally high reviews, but 343 had another Halo-sized hole to fill as fans waited for Infinite. In April of 2018, inspiration would come from the modding group that took over Halo Online. They had just released version 0.6 of El Dorito. It was a hit, and quickly gained momentum, including from Microsoft. Unfortunately, a takedown of El Dorito was sent due to legal requirements to protect Microsoft IP, but El Dorito had a greater impact than initially thought. It signaled to 343 that the PC community was hungry for Halo. The message was loud and clear. They wanted more, and 343 listened. By July, something new happened, something Halo had never seen before. Halo would have its first arcade machine. Developed by Play Mechanics, Halo FIRETEAM Raven would release July 10th, 2018 as a light gun shooter arcade machine supporting 4 players and a special reward for those that linked their Xbox Live profile. However, internally, 343 was running into a problem that plagued the team since its inception, a problem they had finally come to terms with. The tooling inherited from Bungie was old, like really old. Modifications were made for Halo 5, but the technical debt was at an all-time high. The game's engines need to be reworked in order to make the creative process easier. 343's answer was a modified version of the Halo 5 engine dubbed Slipspace, and it would be showcased at E3 2018. As a tech demo, it wowed fans, but it also meant Halo Infinite wouldn't be arriving anytime soon. In an unexpected announcement, the group of modders responsible for El Dorito were hired in an advisory role by 343 to aid in releasing Halo, the Master Chief Collection, to PC. In March of 2019, 343 announced all Master Chief Collection titles would be ported to PC chronologically, but that wasn't all. The first release would actually be a new edition. Halo Reach would be added to the Master Chief Collection for both PC and Xbox One by the end of the year. To top it off, at E3 2019, fans would get their first glimpse at 343's next Halo game.
We lost everything. There's nothing left for us here.
It was finally looking up for 343 Industries, and Halo's reputation was starting to trend up. By October 2019, Halo Infinite was well beyond the typical 3-year cycle Halo was used to. It was clear Halo Infinite was having difficulties. Stepping in Longo's place would be Chris Lee, who had been working at 343 for over 10 years. According to a Microsoft representative, Lee would have overall creative vision and production of the game. However, holiday 2019 was creeping closer, and 343 had big aspirations. Halo Reach was added to the Master Chief Collection December 3rd as promised, but behind the scenes it was was revealed Halo Infinite's multiplayer was actually planned to be released separately from the campaign, according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. It never came to fruition, but the idea of splitting Halo Infinite's campaign from the multiplayer still lingered. Starting on March 3rd, 2020, a new Halo release would be added to the Master Chief Collection on PC roughly every 2 months. It was E3 2020. A new console was releasing that holiday, and fans had one question on their minds: where was Halo? It was time. 343 would give fans 9 minutes of gameplay. Halo Infinite stole the show, but not for the reasons 343 planned. With Halo Infinite being the first mainline Halo game in years and launching on a next-gen console, fans were disappointed by Halo Infinite's graphics. Following the reaction to the gameplay demo, Phil Spencer, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming, admitted, "We should have known before and just been honest with ourselves. Halo Infinite needed to be delayed." Microsoft would no longer be able to recreate the magic of launching an Xbox with a Halo launch title. Instead, Halo Infinite would be delayed, causing a massive hole in the Xbox Series X and S launch titles. Afterwards, Chris Lee, who had inherited creative vision, would step down from the position. Lee has not been heard from since. Microsoft would not pull any punches. They needed a ringer, so they contacted Joe Staten, a famous Halo alum from the Bungie days, to replace Lee as creative director. Staten accepted, but he had one requirement. They would go radio silent until E3 of 2021, where Joe Staten and Bonnie Ross would showcase one more gameplay video. A safer sizzle reel highlighting what was possible in the Halo campaign. But that wasn't all. 343 finally showcased Infinite's multiplayer, and to sweeten the deal, they would announce a very carefully named technical preview for all Halo insiders later that summer. However, a release date was still missing, begging the question, would Halo Infinite even be a 2021 release? For months, the question remained unanswered until August 2021 at Gamescom. Halo Infinite's release date was confirmed, December 8th, 2021. However, fans wouldn't have to wait as long to play it, as the technical preview would finally be released the following month, and fans were pleased. Halo Infinite's multiplayer was combining the speed of 343's previous titles with the simplicity and sandbox of Bungie's classic trilogy. With the technical preview successful, fans had been given a taste, but they were hungry for more. Halo fans agreed. December 8th could not come quick enough, but they weren't the only ones. Marketing Halo alongside snack brands was not unusual for the series. Halo Infinite partnered with Pringles, allowing anyone who purchased Pringles to be able to redeem XP tokens, but something stood out. Pringles was indicating Halo Infinite would release November 15th, 2021. Furthermore, the Xbox Store API indicated the same date, and to make matters more suspicious, November 15th marked the 20th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved and the original Xbox console. On that day, Microsoft would host a live stream to pay tribute to 20 years of Xbox, and in it, 343 had a message that would shock fans.
It's my honor and privilege to announce that your Spartan journey begins today. Right now, you can download and start playing Season 1 of Halo Infinite's free-to-play multiplayer beta on Xbox One, Series S, X, and PC.
It was a success. Halo Infinite's multiplayer was split from the campaign and released in beta. A month later, it exceeded expectations due to a combination of exceptional gameplay, word of mouth, and a lack of worthy competition. A month later, the campaign would launch to a strong critical reception and a breath of fresh air for the series, while ultimately being an homage to the original trilogy. The thing is, Halo Infinite suffered major hurdles, including the lack of Forge and campaign co-op at launch. The multiplayer's first season would be extended another 3 months with barely any content to hold fans over. 343 had failed miserably launching the multiplayer as a live service game. The game was in development for 6 years up until this point, which begged the question, how could this have happened? I'll not only explain why Halo's development actually took longer than Grand Theft Auto 5's, but I'll also show you how a 90s court case ruined Halo Infinite's chances from the start. So don't ignore this video if you love Halo. Keep it cute.